Okay, hello everyone, this is Chris from IELTS Advantage, and today we're going to take a look at a quick guide to IELTS reading time management. So let's look at what we're going to do today. We're going to look at why time management is a problem for lots of students, the common mistakes students make, and suggestions for good time management in the reading test. So why is timing a problem in the reading test? Very simply, if you don't have enough time, you can't answer the questions correctly. But more importantly, and I think this is what causes the most problems for students, is when time is running out and you know that you haven't used time management effectively, it adds extra stress. So when you know that you have, say, 20 questions left and you only have 5 minutes, you're probably going to get the majority of those questions wrong. So having good time management reduces stress, and if you have less stress, you will probably have a better score because you'll answer more questions correctly. So what are the common mistakes? So I think there's 6 common mistakes that students make. So the first one is not leaving enough time to fill in the answer sheet. You're not given extra time to fill in your answers. So you will have a document with all of the reading text in it, and then you will have a document which will be your answer sheet. In the listening test, you get extra time at the end to fill in your answers, but in the reading test, you do not. And there's lots of confusion about this. Lots of students think that they have time at the end, and then they don't, so they get a very low score. Losing focus. Reading and focusing is very difficult to do for a whole hour, especially in a foreign language. Even when I'm reading a book, after 1 hour, it's very, very difficult to focus compared to when I first started reading the book an hour before. And this is especially difficult if it's in a language that's not your own. Spending an equal amount of time on each question. So this is a big one. Lots of books and lots of teachers suggest spending 1 minute on each question. So giving an equal amount of time to each question. This is actually not very good advice, and we're going to look at why it's not good advice in the suggestions in just a few minutes. Skimming too much. Again, skimming is a good technique, but it's not suitable for all questions. When I talk to students about reading, they often say one of the keys to success in the reading test is skimming. You have to do lots of skimming, you have to do lots of scanning. So skimming is just reading quickly to get the general idea of a text, and lots of students think that if they do this, it will give them more time. Actually, if you do this, then you're not really focusing on the questions as much as you should. I'm not saying that you should not skim, but there are other reading skills that you must deploy in the reading test also. Doing exactly what your teacher says. So there's usually more than one way to do something in IELTS. Doesn't matter if it's the listening test, the reading test, the speaking test, or the writing test. You're not doing a maths or a physics test where there is one correct answer and only one way to do something. There is usually 2 or 3 techniques, different ways to get the correct answer. So what you should do is find the technique or the system that works best for you. Everybody's brains work differently. So if your teacher says you must do this exactly like this, think about, does it actually work for you? You might be able to change that technique a little bit to make it better for you. Also, not reading in English. This is a huge mistake. It's pretty obvious why this is a big mistake. If you don't read in English and then you do an English test, it's not likely that you're going to get a very high score. So here's some suggestions. We're going to have 6 suggestions. So use the 3 reading skills, not just skimming. So of course you need skimming, but you also need scanning, and you need close reading. Close reading is when you actually really focus on a particular part of the text to find the correct answer. It doesn't matter if you skim and you scan. If you don't read closely, if you don't actually think about the correct answer, you're not going to get a high score. So fill in the answers. Either fill in the answer sheet as you go or leave time at the end. So if I was doing the test, I would like to transfer the answers into the answer sheet as soon as I did them. But I know lots of students don't like doing that because they like to focus on the text, they like to focus on the reading, and they put the correct answer beside the text and then they transfer at the end. Find out what works for you. So If the first technique works for you, do that. If it doesn't, try the second technique and see if that works for you. Give more time to difficult questions. So this is related to the point I made. A common mistake is giving equal time to every question. Some questions are easier than others, so you shouldn't give them as much time. So the easy questions, you don't need to spend as much time on as the difficult questions. In the test, there will be questions that are very easy and there will be questions that are very difficult. You should spend more time on the questions that are difficult than the ones that are easy. At the same time, if you get, say, 8 questions, the questions number 1, 2, and 3 are probably going to take you more time to do than questions 7 and 8, because you have read the text and you've eliminated a lot of things. So the first questions are in a particular question type, like say true, false, not given, or multiple choice. The first few questions are probably going to take you a little longer because it's maybe the first time you're reading the text. So if a question is taking you longer than, say, 1 minute, don't panic, don't get stressed out. It just might be a difficult question, or it might require you to read more than the other questions. And then further questions, if they're easier and they only take 10 seconds or 20 seconds, move on. The next suggestion is read. Pretty simple. Reading is a skill and you must practice it. And also you should be reading in English. That is probably the number one way to get a higher score in your IELTS reading, is to actually just read in English. And it's better to read something you enjoy. So if you like football, read a website about football every day. If you like politics, go on to a news website and read about that. If you like cooking, read a cooking blog. If you like fashion, read a fashion blog. There's always something on the internet or in a magazine or in a book, but it's better to read something you enjoy, because you're not going to get bored and you will improve your skills at a much higher rate, because something you like, you're going to do more. So reading is key. Approach each question type differently. So there are probably more than 10 different types of reading questions, and you should have a technique or a system for approaching each different question type. So some different question types are true, false, not given, yes, no, not given, matching, paragraph headings, multiple choice. These are all different types of question, and they require different techniques or different systems, because they are all answered in a different way. So if you have a system for each type of question, then you're going to be much more confident, you're not going to panic, and you're also probably going to get the questions done far faster than if you just start reading them without any technique. And find out what works for you. So there's more than one technique or one system for answering a multiple choice question, for example. Everyone is different. You must find the strategy that works for you, not the one that your teacher says. So your teacher might have a great strategy that works really well for you, and if so, use that. But if something is not working for you, try some different strategies. Have a look online at the different IELTS websites, different types of IELTS book. They all have different strategies, so find out which one works for you. And how do you do that? You practice. So you must read something you enjoy, practice that skill, but you must also practice doing the tests to find out which system works for you. If your reading skills are high and you're able to focus for 1 hour and you have a good technique, then time management will be no problem for you. The people who have most problems with time management are people that don't read in English, don't practice reading, don't practice any of the tests. They don't have a technique for that. Those are the people that have big problems with time management. The people that read in their spare time in English, have a technique for all the different questions, and practice and find out what works for them personally, they have no problem finishing everything in an hour. So I hope you find that useful. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, you can contact me at IELTSadvantage.com or Facebook.com/IELTSadvantage. And all the links are just below this video. All right. Thank you very much. Goodbye.